let's get started. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys something just to get started off. This past couple of weeks, I've been working on this lovely character. She has been done. I've been working on her for the School of Games mood board challenge. I'm a judge in the challenge, so it's just kind of fun. And I'm the lone 3D artist on that panel of judges, so I go through and I try to go all out. Yeah. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with the challenge, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pull up. I'm going to pull up the challenge itself so I can show you. And this is the character that we'll be working on today. There are some things that I want to go ahead and add in. Things like little details of like the necklace hanging around the neck. Possibly work on her vest and clothing up top to make it so that it's got the details in it that I would like to have. School of Games. So over here on Instagram, see, this is the School of Games Instagram page. Yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll link it here in the chat so you can get to it if you want to. In fact, let me link you the actual challenge itself. You can already see they've posted a few of the entries, a few entries from judges as well, which is super fun. Okay, so here's the post itself. Let's say copy link. I guess instead of copy link there, we'll just say copy link here. Boom, paste. Boom, there we go. Cool. So yeah, here's the mood board challenge, and it looks like Restream might be having a little bit of trouble connecting. There we go. All right. Essentially, what you do, you take any of these items, you take any and all of them, you use them as inspiration. You include them in your piece, or whatever it is you want to do, and you create a character based off of what you see, based off of the ideas here. And there have been so many different ideas and so many different types of pieces, as you can see, different types of characters, big hats, big hair, no hats, just different ways of including feathers or leaves, different patterns, but a similar sort of color concept, color combination, different types of items that you can see scattered throughout the different pieces. Just a lot of fun. Okay, so there are a few things I've gone through and made a list because lists are important to me. There are a few things I want to work on my personal piece today. Let's go ahead and open up our character, number 6. A few things that I want to do to be able to make the character really shine, make it really work, right? All right. So the first thing that I really want to be able to do is be able to add in hair strands. Right now we have this, this decent clump, right? The clump is really it's helping to create this sense of character. It's helping to continue shape language and things like that, even though it's not like this nice refined shape. It's something that helps to create this feeling of like a clumpy curled hair, just like bushy curled hair, so we want to work on the hair and adding things in there. Turnips are going to be my number 2 thing. She's going to be holding this set of turnips in her hand, 2 or 3 of them, and then we'll see what else we can get to from there. Give me a second. All right. So what do you guys think? What should we start with? Should we start with the hair, Or should we start with the turnips? To be able to do hair, I'm going to come over to my hairbrush. I have a few different hairbrushes. Anybody who's gone through and purchased my hairbrush, you know that I've got my standard hairbrush, which is the one that it's sold a few thousand copies. it's pretty popular. I also have hair curls, which has been pretty popular as well. These particular curls, I don't know that they'll. I don't know. Maybe I can get them to work well with this particular piece. You can see like it just works off of a curve. And in fact, let's see. I'm going to want to insert, so it goes in just beneath this sphere 3D. There it is. I'm going to take this up, shrink it down really nice and small. Just make sure that it's inside of the mass of everything that's there, because I don't want to see it. And it's just something to be able to get my thing started. It's not really something that I want to keep. It's just something that's there. Okay, and I'm just going to drag out a piece. Okay, center it. You can see we've got this sort of thing going on. So yeah, we get like a simple kind of curl coming in here. And I just want to try to situate it so that it's sitting on top of, kind of going through the mesh a little bit. I want to leave the what's going on there? There we go. That's what I want. I'm going to leave the color as it is right now, the default gray kind of boring color, for a moment, because I want to be able to see the difference of of the piece that I'm adding versus the piece that's already there, just to be able to see if it's kind of getting the coverage that I want. Hey Neil, how you doing? Okay, now let's go ahead. Let's hit MRGB, color, fill object. Huh, why didn't it? Fill, oh, it's because I had the wrong material selected. Color, fill object, okay. I feel like it's not quite getting the look that I'm wanting, so what I want to do is, instead of having this, let's go ahead and we'll just select that. Geometry, modify topology, delete hidden. And in fact, this has a lot of polygons to it, so I'm going to go ahead and just to make sure that I have a super low number of polygons, I'm going to say decimate that. Okay. That way it's just as low poly as I can have it, and it's just a bit easier on the system, lighter on the system. Alright, so what I'm going to do to be able to do the hair, if anybody would rather see me work on the turnips first, they're going to have like big leafy greens kind of coming off over the top of her hand and things like that. Then let me know. But yeah, so let's get this hair working. And essentially all I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a few strands. That's way out of line there. Okay, so you can see like it's just kind of adding some detail here. What I want to do is I want to, there we go. I don't want it to be like a total flyaway, but I don't want it to be super super tight to the mass either. So that's going to be good enough. Let's go ahead and start pulling that in, pulling this end out. Yeah, these are my own curved brushes. So like I made these curved brushes because I wanted to have a very specific set of shapes for my hair. There are other curve brushes out there, other curve hair brushes, and I wanted something pretty specific, and so I went ahead and made it, and there we go. And yeah, I just made it so that I could have, you know, the actual shape that I wanted instead of whatever was already available. And yeah, it was kind of the start of my curve brush making. Okay, that'll be a good start right there. Okay, let's go ahead. I'm going to probably add in a few strokes of these. And in fact, let's say instead of having this with like a major slope off like that, I'm going to make it like so that the thickness difference is a lot less obvious. Get some shape in there, but not a ton. Oh, in fact, what we could do, instead of having it be just one solid width, we could have it so that it starts thin, ends thin, and gets thick. Let's kind of boost that up a little bit. Yeah, I'm liking that a lot better. So yeah, the idea will be to go through and will you do mech design today? No, I won't be doing mech design today. Elbow cough. Yeah, it's one of those things that I actually really don't do. I don't do a ton of mech design. I do enough that enough to say that I can do it, and enough to say that I feel like I do it well. Here's an example of. Let's go into ArtStation. I'll show you. Show you a couple little guys that I did. So I've got this fish bot that I did, which was a lot of fun. You can see that right there. This guy has been copied so many times. I just got a notification of somebody else who went through and copied my design and 3D printed him, and just a little bit bothered by it, but you know, whatever. And then I've got this guy right here, which this guy was fun, but yeah. Anyway, I have another few that I've started that I just haven't had a chance to finish. In fact, this guy's really, quite honestly, he's actually also very work in progress, because there's so much that I can and ought to probably do with him to make him so that he's more finished. But you know, he looks good. He's fun. So yeah. But okay. here's what we're going to do. So what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to take this hair and have it so that it kind of just breaks the forms here. Makes it so that it's not the smooth this smooth chunk of hair, that it has some bit of like flyaway and form breakup and things like that. So in fact, you know what? I'm going to take this. I'm going to say geometry, delete hidden. And then with these ones, with these curves right here, let's say polish. And then just kind of have some of these pieces break silhouette a little bit more. Maybe have this kind of come off of the curl some. I'm getting some weird glitches on my in my preview today. That's really kind of odd. All right. Just gonna try to create something interesting here. I do feel like the thinner strands are going to be kind of more the way to go. So let's see about adding some more of these thinner strands and see what we can do with it. I'll leave the bigger chunks in there. But I'm going to try to create more of a sense of hair. Get some more of that crazy, chaotic detail in there. Maybe even add in a couple of these larger chunks just to get some variation. In fact, that'd be something maybe we can turn on. Yeah, turn off dynamic. Let me see. You know what I'm going to do? I am going to take... You can see all that. Boom. Boof. Turn that off. Turn off the regular head. Those ears look super pasty. Okay, I think I only have on what I need on. Okay, I'm just trying to see... Oh, are the titles wrong on... Let me pull this over to the side so that I can... let me see. Gotta log back into the Pixelogic. stream. They've changed the setup so that it looks different now. Yeah, it's odd. It won't let me see the titles right now. Maybe it's just a thing of like they changed it so that it's so you just can't change titles during the stream anymore. Scheduler, team, analytics, video storage. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's showing me a stream monitor, but it's not showing me where I can go through and change titles. So maybe it's just what's showing up? What's it saying? Hey, Leonard. Wasn't updated from last night. Bummer. Was it at least somebody cool? No, just kidding. Everybody's cool. It's not working the way I'd like it to. Oh, it's Ara. Okay. Oops. Yeah, Ara is cool. So that's probably why I got the question on mech design. That's actually kind of funny. So yeah, no, sorry if I'm disappointing anybody. I'm not Ara. I'm actually filling in because so this week was Game Designer Conference in San Francisco. and Ana Carolina, who was supposed to be streaming today. In fact, I'm not sure I really like this. You know, I might just turn this off and go on to the turnips. Let's name it, turn it off. Ana Carolina, who would have been streaming today, because she's in San Francisco for the conference, she won't be at home to be able to stream, and so that's why I'm kind of filling in, if you will. In fact, let's go ahead. Let's do this. I'm going to say Center Geometry, the stager, and then we're going to go ahead and say home stage. Target stage. All right. I'm going to go ahead and start beating up on this thing. Let's give it a good kind of turnip sort of color. probably more like this sort of color, maybe a little bit more yellow. There we go. Oh, let's go ahead, MRGB, color, fill object. Beautiful creation. Hey, thanks, Gustavo. Her name, that's a good question. That is a good question. I haven't thought of a name. Just had a few mech parts here and there. Yeah, no. Did you start out as ZBrush or traditional sculpting like wax? I wasn't a serious sculptor before I got into digital. I had used things like clay, like plastilina, Sculpey, that sort of stuff. But I haven't. I didn't really start digging into clay or traditional sculpting until after I had started with digital. Yeah, I've done. Oops, that's a little bit too much. I've done a lot of stuff digitally over the last 16 years. So that's kind of where, in fact, that's good. That's kind of where I tend to live. All right. Let's kind of solo this out so that we can. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to just give it this very kind of lumpy sort of shape. And then I'm going to use the clay polish to be able to really kind of hold on to that. And then I'll polish it out so that it's just an irregular shape. I don't want like hard lines. I just want to have lumps. And then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll create kind of like a banding sort of effect with in fact that's a little bit too irregular, I think, for what I'm wanting. But it's okay. It's okay. All right, Dynamesh. We'll get this figured out. Maggie. Yeah, I could dig that. How you doing, Quentin? Like her shoes. Yeah, her shoes are pretty fun. They're, in fact, I'll show you the, kind of in my render. That way you guys can see the cool potion drip there. This is a render from Arnold. So I'm going through and trying to bring her over into Maya for my final render. And I've started kind of pulling together my materials. That way, any kind of final sculpting that I do, if I do any kind of like a form or wrinkle pass on any of the clothing, if I do any kind of detail pass on the leather of the hat to make it feel a little bit more weathered, a little bit more irregular, whatever, I can just export displacement maps and use those over inside of Maya. In fact, I need to go through and work on my roughness and displacement maps, detailed maps for the cauldron too. But really, yeah, it's just kind of fun, just having fun with it, and it's been fun to see the way that she's been turning out. It's always fun going through and taking a project and seeing it through to a final stage. It's super satisfying to see a character just find that end result. So yeah, with this turnip, let's grab this snake hook. Okay, Smooth it out a little bit. Been having some really odd, what's it called? Imaging issues today, which is, I don't know, it's kind of odd. We'll go ahead and do something kind of like this. And in fact, one of the things I can do is I can come over here to brush and we can say AccuCurve, and that'll help so that I can get these, you know, sharper cornered pieces kind of coming out over here, kind of design this curve a little bit better. Instead of it being just a simple curve flow, it can have a little bit more of an edge to it. I really like kind of designing curves instead of having it be this simple, what's it called? Like a simple flow, a simple curve. It makes it really interesting when you can design that curve and make it so that it's just got a little bit of a kink to it, you know? Explain the process for displacement maps. Yeah, I think I could do that because that's something that I feel like doesn't get explained super well anywhere. I do have my course where I go over it a little bit because it's important, it's fun, it's super useful. But yeah, I think I'll definitely try to go through it here in the stream. Let me see, what is it that I wanted to be able to get displacement on? Maybe I could go ahead and do like a detailing pass on the hat or something. I wanted to be able to add, yeah, just wanted to be able to add to it. So since it already has UVs are the number one thing, is being able to create UV map for each of the things. So on each of these pieces, I just have a very simple UV layout that I generated here within ZBrush. Using the UV Master. Some of it I went ahead and generated the UV map based on whatchamadiggits, on UVs. So it's just really pretty simple. But I'll go through a little bit of that process. And maybe I'll actually go through some of that process with this turnip, because I think that could be useful too. Let me see. Let's say IMM primitives. Wrong IMM primitives. Dang it! I keep meaning to delete that because I don't like using the IMM primitives brush from like the standard one from ZBrush. You know. So the reason people use ZBrush instead of Blender is because it's industry standard. It's much more powerful than Blender. I get questions every week about why not Blender, and it's another tool that you can use. I personally don't like Blender because the UI and the navigation and everything, it's just terrible. And so having to go through and figure out how to get through, it's like having 6 different softwares piled into one package. And so it's a really hard package for me to be able to navigate and really make sense of. But there are a lot of people who still go through and make, you know, tremendously beautiful things out of it. So I also recognize that, you know, people care more than I do. But yeah, it's just a matter of what is it that you're trying to accomplish? What is it that you are that you have access to, you know, things like that. Here, let's go ahead and extend out the top of that pretty far. It's giving it this little bit of a top here. Let me see. Do you usually use UV Master versus doing it in Maya? No, I usually actually do my UVs inside of Maya because I have more control over it, and I get cleaner UVs that way. Inside of ZBrush, the UVs, it's really just all about speed and what you can get out in. You know, if you're working on a project that doesn't absolutely have to be production ready, like this particular exercise, I mean, this is all about design. It's not about being production ready. So, like I didn't really care about, you know, even on a lot of these pieces, I didn't really even care about having good clean. I want to turn off the AccuCurve. I didn't even care about topology in a lot of these pieces. Like you can even see up here in the face, this is what I have for the face. But I went ahead, I was able to create UVs for it, so I could export the color information and use that as texture map inside of Maya. So, you know, it just really kind of depends on what it is that you're trying to accomplish and what you need to use it for. Let's go ahead and shrink that down just a little bit more. And then for these, what I'm going to do, I'm going to try a couple things. I can either go ahead and use Decimation Master to try to get, you know, just to get the resolution down from 33,000 down to like 5,000 points or something like that. Or the first thing I'm going to try is Z-Remesher. We'll leave that on again. Let's turn it off. I'm going to hit Z-Remesher and see what it is that it gives me. It may not give me quite what I want. So we'll have to see. I mean, it doesn't look bad. You can see it took it from being, you know, 33,000 points down to being 4,000, almost 5,000 points. So not bad. It doesn't look bad. There are a couple spots like down here that are kind of messy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Z-Remesher. I'm just going to say stitch to the end point. That's fine. Click on that first point. Click on the second point. So now that's a little bit cleaner. Okay. Just kind of pinch that together there. This is a trick that I developed at DreamWorks to be able to do metal pieces. Anything that was banged up and needed some sharper edges or some sharper transitions. It was just a great way to be able to make sure that I got those edges that I needed. It's looking much, much better. It's going to give this a little bit of a pinch through here, a little bit of a pinch maybe down through here. And so you can see I'm not caring too much about keeping my topology super nice and clean. I'm not worried about keeping it, you know, nice and even. Since this is something that doesn't have to deform, it doesn't have to animate, and especially since this isn't for production, I'm just going to go ahead and, I mean, even if I was doing this particular asset for production, this is probably how I would do it. Yeah, I'm just going to try to get the shapes that I want instead of, let's go ahead and kind of play with this a little bit, get a little bit of like an edge here and an edge here. Could be kind of cool. Okay, that's looking pretty good. All right. Yeah, so that's a big part of what we want to be able to do. Now, the top of this turnip, I want to have it be kind of that pinkish reddish color. So let's look real quick. So I mean, you can see that we've got the kind of cream colored, the off-white colored bottom. Oh, it's nice to know about the top though. It looks like that top can be completely separate. So I'm just going to get rid of it. Look at this. We're just going to grab knife curve. Boom. Let's do something kind of like that. In fact, there might be a cleaner way to do it. Let's just let's come over here and we'll say select lasso. We'll select. Woo-hoo, don't do that. Okay, we'll do something like that. And we'll say modify topology, delete hidden, close holes. I don't know which one's cleaner, but we'll pretend this one is just cause. Just cause. Not even gonna worry about it. Yeah, so there's that turnip shape for the first one. A turnip mech. No, so no mechs. I'm not Ara. Yeah, so you can see my character down here over in the far corner. What do we name her, Quentin? Was it oh, Maggie. I need to write that down because I'm gonna forget. Let me pull my sticky notes off so I can stick them on my screen. This is Maggie. Stick that onto my screen too so that I can see it. All right. Yeah, they forgot to rename the stream. Yeah, it used to be that I could go in and rename the stream while I was streaming, but it seems like that functionality isn't there anymore. All right. Yeah, so here's Maggie. We'll keep that. I think that's a fun name. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to take standard brush. Let's change it from ZAD to RGB. I am going to say, oh, here's the other thing I want to do is I want to make sure that this has UVs right now as it is. Okay, so I'm going to say, just hit C so I can select that color. It is getting bright in here. Whew. Okay. The turnip and Mech fan base overlap enough so there shouldn't be a problem. I appreciate that. Turnip fans unite. I'm just gonna dock the Z plugin tray over palette over to the side tray here. Let's say UV master. Let's just say unwrap. I'm not even going to worry about what that looks like. I mean, if we wanted to be able to check it, let's go ahead and solo it. We'll hit flatten. That's what my UVs look like. Really simple, and it's just enough for me to be able to get done what I need, right? Not a big deal. Okay, so what I want to do is let's hit unflatten, mRGB, color, fill object. Almost there. Keep moving for 1 minute to make progress. Apparently I've been standing for a few hours today. Okay, so the standard brush, I'm going to go through and modify it so that it's yeah, that's a really interesting idea there, actually. Give it this color spray, and then in the color, I'm going to take that color variance down pretty far. Yeah, oh, you make a face on the radish. I love that idea. I think that is so funny. I'm going to start kind of putting some color on here. Let's actually add, since we have UVs on here now, I can add color and have it be a little bit more detailed. But this is great because this gives me a little bit of subtle color variation. Okay, so now for that other deeper purple type color, let's kind of test this out. It's kind of, you can see how it's like dappling that color on there. It's not quite the shape that I want. It's actually dappling a very round sort of shape. So I'm going to take that alpha. I'm going to change that. I like to use alpha 8. And then you can see that's giving me some very cool color variation, just shape variation. Okay, so I'm just going to come in here. I can make my brush bigger if I want those details to be bigger. It's a little bit too big, I think. Yeah, I'm just going to kind of lightly kind of pull this in so that I can get that band of color in there. And then what I can do is I can grab this. I'm going to maybe like make it a little bit darker. And I'm just going to kind of come back the other way, just kind of eat away at it. Sometimes it's just a matter of going through and kind of playing and figuring out where exactly you want to have these colors meet up. And sometimes you just gotta really push on things, but it's all about having fun, just kind of figuring things out. There we go. Let's see if we can kind of come down here and give some color variation down here as well. Don't eat that. It's a really funny idea though, Jean. Being able to make that the face on the on this turnip. That'd be really funny. What do you think about a lot of projects or characters in Portfolio or ArtStation that just say stylized X without much story in the character? Story definitely makes things more appealing, makes things more interesting. I mean, one of the things that I feel is kind of interesting is that most of the stylized characters that we celebrate through film and games there isn't a whole lot of story in the character. If you pay attention, you know, people will talk about adding story to your character, and there are some characters that have a bit of story to them, like things like scars or things like, you know, tattered clothing or bumps and bruises. But generally speaking, we don't actually see a whole lot of characters that have story already as part of you know, story kind of tied in. And so it's really kind of an interesting thing, an interesting. It's a little bit too much there. One of the things that, because you know, in animation, you want to think about, you know, a lot of times they're thinking about like the story comes through the acting and the story comes through what's happening, and so, you know, going through and adding a whole lot of history and story type details to a character, it's not going to, you know, you got to be careful what you add and how you add it, or else it could distract from the story. I'm going to add some strokes on here. But, you know, story can come through all sorts of different ways. The type of clothing that you include on your character can help suggest the climate they live in or where they come from. Yeah, you can add story in all sorts of different ways to your character, and it's super, super neat. But one of the things that you just want to be careful of is that you don't add things just for the sake of trying to infer backstory when you can do that in different ways. You know what, let's go ahead and turn on the sub. Just going to add in some wrinkles here. And in fact, it might be worthwhile to use the slash brush instead, /2. You see, I'm just kind of like, I'm not trying to do like a very straight line. I am trying to follow some of my sketches on here, my little sketchy lines that I did already, just so that it feels like that color is driven with a purpose. But I'm also trying to add in a little bit extra. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's grab brush slash. Let me see. I'll get to you. I see there are a couple more. Oh, not which one did I open? Slash. There we go. This is what we want. /2. And I'm just going to turn off the RGB, turn the Z intensity way down. And I'm just going to start to add in some of these types of details, which I really love doing. Because it just adds like an extra layer of, I'll say, simple complexity. And notice I'm going only in the one direction. If I go the other direction, it's going to create kind of a contrasted contrasted detail there that I don't want. So yeah, I'm just trying to go over lines a couple of times. I'm gonna add another subdivision layer just to make sure that I have the right amount of polygons here to make sure that my little details here don't have too few of, like, if it has too few polys, then it's not going to have smooth resolution detail. You got to kind of pay attention to how I vary up that line. Now, this isn't exactly how a turnip would be. I'm trying to be kind of artistic in what I'm choosing to do here. I love this sort of detail, so this is something that I'm kind of, making up. But if you make it up, well, nobody notices. And the idea is to create something that people don't notice. Something that people can go through and pay attention to and really feel excited about, but not necessarily something that they'll notice, that they'll look at on a screen and their eyes are immediately drawn to it because get it right, Quentin. Because it's like blaringly obvious detail, It's one of those things where it's like you want it to support what it is. And right now, it's going to be drawing a lot of attention because it's the thing with the most detail. And once it has leaves, it'll probably have, I need to make sure that the leaves are simplified enough that they won't be distracting. You can see, here's a good picture. You can see the leafy greens they're pretty simple. So I can simplify these in a way that that won't distract too much. And so here's a good example. There's turnips here in the back and rutabaga here in the front. I'm getting a little bit more of that rutabaga sort of detail, kind of those bands going in there. But really I'm just trying to add detail that feels fun. And where did that one picture go that I was looking at? Nerds. Yeah, so we got these. The scale of this thing is a little bit big as well. So let's just kind of shrink it down just a little bit more, I think. If it's not big enough, then we can play with that later. Not a big deal. Okay, let's just kind of give it just a little bit more here and there in places where it it's visible. Let's go ahead and turn on the AccuCurve for this move brush real quick so that we can get some quick shape variation here. Okay. instead of having like the simple. There we go. Something like that could be cool. Hey, gorgeous. All right. So that's looking cool. That is looking cool. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to Control-Shift-D and duplicate that up. It's not going to be much of anything at first. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, oh, delete lower. Now I can go ahead and commit that to something. Okay. Now for this, let's go ahead and check just to see, just to understand, I guess, more about how the color goes, so we can, the color and the structure. Let's come into these little guys right here, I think. Oh boy, let's see. Looks like I missed a few things. Don't eat that. What do you think about, okay, stylized without story in the character? Maybe a crying face. That could be funny. Quick question. Is there some kind of rule of thumb on what polygon density to aim for depending on the details you're painting? I just try to do with the least amount that I can get away with. Looks like that can be kind of stringy up. Pretty simple. Yeah, so this the least amount of polygons you can get away with is the best rule of thumb. You want to think about the kind of detail you're adding and whether or not that's turning out as smoothly as you need it. So like for instance, this might be enough, or I might just go ahead and say Control D one more time just to make that smooth out. It just kind of evens it out a little bit. I'll turn off the RGB and then I can just, I don't know, maybe knock it down with some smooth just to make sure that it gets rid of some of the pixelation here. Yeah, I don't know. Get some weird junk calls. So yeah, that's kind of the rule of thumb that I follow. You know, different people will have different things that they do, but that's kind of my general practice, is that I use the least amount of polygons possible for it to look the way that I need it to. There are things that'll happen in render time. You know, this is plenty for me for render time. If I were, you know, needing to be up close, you know, and super close on a you know, have a really tight detailed shot, then I might need to come through here. With the right subtool selected, I might need to come through here, and I might need to up this and just, you know, really get into details in here. But since I'll only ever see it maybe from right here, this is probably more than enough, you know. So yeah, it's just kind of the idea, you know, like for films like yeah, so it's the same thing for sculpting or for poly painting. It's it's going to be the same principle. You know, whatever detail you want to have come through is what you're going to want to keep in mind for, you know, if that's getting enough resolution for you, then that's great. If not, you know, you can go through, you can step down, and you can see that's still holding the resolution. This is where I start to lose my detail, though. And it's like, is that enough for me? This is better. This is best. So it's just a matter of kind of figuring out what it is that you're trying to add and how much you need it to show through. Yeah, it's a great question. Let's see, it's color, fill object. And we'll do something like that for right now, just to be able to make sure that we are starting this off well. I'm going to start off with flatten. I'm just going to flatten this side right here. And I'm going to go in, let's say accept, and then we'll say taper. And we'll kind of taper that in. The reason why I want to do that, and just kind of scale it in, is I'm trying to get this profile. You know, you can see that profile where it's kind of flat here and it's kind of sharp here. So this sort of profile is going to work really well for me when I do this. So you can see now I've got this long piece with that profile, and it'll be really helpful for keeping making those stems. Okay, check that out. So now we can go through and we can create a grouping of these, and yeah, should be pretty groovy. And we're going to want like 3 of these turnips total. But you know, we'll get to it. Let's go ahead and just kind of scale that up a little bit, just so that it has a little bit of a shape change. Okay, and then one thing that we can also keep in mind is that this turnip still has, it should still have the stager applied to it. So we can say switch stage, and you can see now it's down in that home position. It's not really anything that's a big deal anymore. I don't really need it like that, so I'm just going to turn off target, turn off home, and we'll just keep it as it is. But yeah. Let me see. Looking for a brush just like that. Yeah, it's a great brush. /2 is amazing. I actually learned about it from Ashley Adams. She's another streamer on this Pixologic channel. It's awesome. So the alpha doesn't make it affect just the one side. The alpha makes it so that it changes how the brush affects the surface. You can think of it like a mask. So it's like saying anywhere where the white is, anywhere where it's white in that image, it's going to affect it. You know, it's going to affect it. Like 100% white is going to be 100% of the time. Anything that's less than that, that's more gray. As you get closer to black, it's less effect. Black is no effect. So if you wanted to be able to make it so that it doesn't affect the other side, you can come up here to brush, down to auto masking, and we have this back face masking right here. So that's really, really helpful. I am going to add in some, say keep polygroups, we'll say flat. Do something kind of like that. And then I'll come up here to crease and we'll say uncrease all. There we go. All right. So let's see. On here, let me just check on the reference real quick. Yeah, so it looks like it gets a little bit more pale toward the bottom, but not like a ton. So we'll just add a little bit of that there so that it has a little bit of a color variation. Do something kind of like this, and then we'll just hold Control and we'll rotate things around. And this is where we get to go through and start kind of shaping things and really start to make things make sense. Okay. I'm just going to take these and kind of pull them around. And guys, make sure that if you do have questions, feel free to ask. I am way more than willing to answer questions. I do get carried away in what I do. So if I haven't seen your question, I do try to go back and read them so that I can answer them, because I feel like it's important. You know, these sorts of opportunities are kind of fun to sit down and ask questions from people who are working on things. Yeah, no, so I'm as far as you can get from mech design right now. Let me see. I don't eat many vegetables. 11 months never came so quickly. I'm not sure I understand the 11 months reference. Bummer. Let me see. Yeah, so a detail that I add, it does depend on the character and how stylized the character is. Like for this particular character, I'm going to want to add a lot of detail to the hair. The clothes will stay relatively simplified. I will probably add, I will probably add some sort of knitting texture or something like that to the stockings. And possibly some, I might go ahead and paint up the shoes. The hat's going to have some texture to it, but really, like, the skin's going to be pretty simple. The eyes will be really pretty simple. They'll have more than what they have right now, but because this is just kind of blocking in the shape of the iris there. But you know, but yeah, I do have like these little areas. You know, the wand has some detail to it, just to be able to kind of break it up and get our eyes kind of flowing through the composition. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Galvin, hey, thank you so much, Galvin. I was wondering, do you think there's space for stylized characters and collectibles? Absolutely. If you follow, this is one of my absolute favorite artists. He's a good friend of mine. Oh, I guess I could go over here to ArtStation. Let's go to Gabriel Suarez. If you follow Gabriel at all, you'll know that he's been doing some collectibles. He's been doing his own thing, right? And this is one that he did for himself, and I wouldn't be surprised if this gets picked up by some major Collectibles Studio. I really really like this one, but he's also had some other ones that he's done recently for, you know, like that have been produced. Um, in fact, this Jack Black one, you can see there's Jack with his own little mini Black. You know, it's just kind of just super fun. The mini Jablinski. Super fun, right? So for collectibles, yeah, I mean, there's totally, it's totally there. And oh yeah, he did one of his Michael Jackson too, which was really super fun. I think this one was picked up, possibly by, what's the studio called? By Sideshow. He's had something that he's produced recently with Sideshow, and I can't remember for sure um, which one it was. But yeah, he did something with Sideshow, and it was awesome. Um, Let me see. I think I saw something about um, Abe from Hellboy. Yeah, he's kind of fun. Abe Sapien. Um, Let me see. Mech design. No, not mech design. The vegetable is not in the reference. Um, so the vegetable is actually in the reference. Let me show you what my reference is. My reference is a sketch that I made myself. So let me see if I can find my. Here's my original sketch that I did. You can see I've got my little turnips down here. Um, so yeah, it's there. It's just not there yet, you know, in the 3D. So let's yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm just trying to get the just trying to get things headed in the right direction. So far so good, you know, it's working. Okay, this particular piece, let's go ahead and turn it. Turnip. It's been kind of fun. I've been watching through the Studio Ghibli films with my kids, and they've really enjoyed them. Let's go ahead and get kind of a shape in here. Yeah, I kind of like that. Let's keep that. We just watched Ponyo. They really liked that one. Their favorite has been Totoro. So yeah, that's been fun. Okay, so there's the start of that stem. And move. Let's go ahead and do something like this, just to make it so that it's a little bit more pushed. And I'm trying to make sure that it's interesting from all angles. You know, you can tell when it starts to feel a little bit stale. So you just kind of vary up that shape a little bit. Okay, so there we go, something kind of like that. So one of the things that I can do now is I've got these shapes, I've got this piece. I'm going to, since we talked about being able to export our displacement maps. I don't know if you're still there, Leonard, or not, but this one's for you, buddy. So yeah, to be able to get this going, I already have my textures painted on here. I have my UVs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say UV map. I'm going to change this this UV map size to 4096, and you can go all the way up to 8192 to an 8K size. I'm just going to keep it at a 4K size. In fact, I don't really even need it 4K. Let's do 2K. We'll keep it at 2K, which I think is what the default was. Okay. So let's go into texture. I'm going to say new from Polypaint, and so that gives me my color map. Okay. Great first step. Okay, we're doing great. In fact, let's use that slash brush. I think I want to add a little bit more. To this top area here. And because I have the these sprouts kind of coming in here, I think I might go ahead and kind of lay a foundation for that detail so that it feels like it's integrated a little bit. Okay, I'm just kind of working my way around. Let's actually grab the witch and put her into her own group. Let's grab that. Grab that. We'll grab the cauldron and stuff too. Why not? And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say new folder. Would you like to create a new folder containing these subtools? Yes. Witch. And then I can just go ahead and turn her off for right now. All right. That's one of the best features. I will go through and I'll actually add a little bit more of... I just went ahead and stepped down a level so that the details aren't as sharp. I will actually go through and add in a little bit more of that off-white color up here. Because I feel like it would make it feel a little bit more consistent. So let's grab that color here, grab my brush, and I don't need to see the sprouts right now. Oh yeah, I've got the texture already made, so let's go ahead and turn off the texture. And I'm just going to kind of brush this in just a little bit up here, just to get a little bit of that color variation. Let's see kind of how that looks. Okay, so I'm going to do, this is my first little pass here. Okay, just get a little bit of a color variation, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get kind of a deeper color of this purple here, and I'm going to kind of try to get just the edges. Don't forget to save. That's a good reminder, my friend. Good reminder. I'm just going to keep it at version 6. That should be fine. So now that we have this, I'm going to come over here to masking. I'm going to say mask by smoothness, and I'm going to hit that. And you can see that goes through, and it does a really pretty good job at hitting just those sharp corners. So let's see. I'm going to grab, let's grab right there. Invert that. And then I hit Control H to be able to kind of hide the mask. So now you can see I've got this, and it's really kind of holding it more or less to that little edge. Okay, And I'm just adding it to kind of these top rings more than anything. I just want to kind of try to tie these things together, and I want to try to add a little bit more depth. Oops, that's a little bit dark. I'm just going to make my brush a little bit bigger and get a more general sort of application. Try to keep it really light. There we go. That feels a little bit. A little bit nicer. Okay, let's see if I can get a little bit more of a light color kind of coming in here. Just kind of break up the color, give it some spackle, you know? Some speckly spackle. So yeah, there we go. That'll be that. Now it's time to just go through and now I can make a better texture map. Let's go ahead and I'm debating though whether or not to. Let's see, there's texture on. Let's go ahead and say new from Polypaint. Okay. And now I'm just trying to see if it, yeah, it looks like it holds. You can just turn texture on and off to be able to see if it's holding the detail well enough. It looks like it is, so that's great. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's do this exporting of the maps. I'm going to come up to the multi-map exporter if I can find it. There we go. So I have displacement turned on. I don't need normal map. Texture from Polypaint, it's great. Ambient occlusion, sure, why not? And cavity is one you can turn on too. But yeah, so what I want to do is I want to say export options. Okay, map size, let's say 2048. Okay, export options. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say first for the displacement map. You see it has a bunch of different options down here. Let me make sure that I have these things visible for you guys. Let's bring it all the way up. Okay. Make sure that I don't lose myself here in the process. Cool. Flip V means that it's going to flip it vertical, because what happens inside of ZBrush is that every time you bring in an image and you try to apply it as a texture map, it's going to be upside down. I don't know why it does this. It's kind of an irritant. So having it flip the map vertical means that it's going to apply just fine in any other software. It's going to be just awesome. Interesting. I don't want to have that on. Displacement map, subdivision level. Okay, I want to have it at the subdivision level that I'm going to export the asset out for, so I'm going to be exporting it at subdivision level 1 in order to get it over into Maya. So I'm just going to, keep that at its highest subdivision level, but that subdivision level indicator here inside of displacement map is going to be 1. So it's going to generate the map from that subdivision level 1 and calculate the height difference of the points. Yeah, it should be fine. Mid, having that set to 0.5. I'm going to set that to 0. So that way it's essentially going to be like black is no effect, and then white should be, all the way displaced. If you have it at 0.5, it's going to have it as like 50% gray is your neutral and it's not going to be affected. And then, you know, down to 0, it's going to be kind of an indentation. And then at 1, it's going to be a displacement. It's going to be pushing out. I'm going to put it down to 0. And we'll check it just to make sure that it works the way that we want it to. But yeah, I'm going to have it 32-bit EXR. Okay. The reason I use an EXR is that it gets the cleanest and the most reliable displacement information. Pardon me. Yeah, it just keeps it really clean and sharp. It doesn't lose any detail. If you don't use the 32-bit EXR, then you're going to notice pixelation in your displacement maps, and it's not a good thing. Leave the scale intensity, leave that, it's just fine. Ambient Occlusion Map, I'm just going to leave these as the defaults, but just so you know, this is kind of where it's at. Trying to think, is there anything else? You do have the option to be able to export your mesh. I'm not going to worry about it. But let's go ahead. Let's close export options. So now that we have that, I'm going to say create all maps. Okay. And this is only going to be dealing with this particular T_turnip. That's something that I didn't technically look at, is my naming conventions. I'll show you that in a second. Just to make sure that we're getting what we need out of this. Export options, you can see file names, and you also have switch morph target, which is kind of interesting. I haven't used this one, but this is something that you can use if you are, before going into, I guess, you know, if you have like different expressions, or if you have different poses or different manipulations that you're using that for on the mesh, you can have that kind of turn off. Yeah, anyway, so you can go into file names, and you have this option right here. You have, for 16-bit formats, you get a PSD, or you can change that to a TIFF. You only have those two options for that, by the way. For 8-bit format, you have JPEG, TIFF, bitmap, Targa, JPEG. I try to keep it at that 100% quality. No subtool name in the file name. It's great. Overwrite existing files, sure. And then this is where you can go through and customize things. This is not how it is by default. I like to add this at the end. These DM for displacement map, VD for vector displacement map, texture map is _D, just because these are these different these file name suffixes that I kind of got used to when I was working at Warner Brother Games, and so they kind of stuck and they make sense to me. I don't want to kind of reroute that, or uproot that. Ambient occlusion, cavity. You have UV tile ID format, UDIM. That means it's going to use UDIM tiles. That's the setting I tend to leave it at. And what happens is that if I have something that is like a model that I have everything laid out nicely into full UDIM sets, meaning that, like, if I have, you know, UVs in that 0 to 1 space in my UV grid, and then I have in the next grid over, I have UVs from another asset inside of that same scene, and then, or, you know, from that same character or whatever, if I have my things split out into different UV tiles, those are called UDIMs. And so being able to export those as UDIMs, it's going to go ahead and combine those and number them for me if I, you know, have them. I don't technically have them, so it's not going to worry about it. So anyway, I have that, and that's great. That works just fine for me. So let me show you. here, that's my ambient occlusion for the turnip. Okay, you can see it's got all the little details down there. It's also got the color map. The EXR is one that I'd have to open up Photoshop to be able to check out, and hopefully it'll let me. It'll lag some, just so you're aware. Hopefully it's not too bad. I'll have to turn Photoshop off once I'm done kind of showing you this EXR, this displacement map. But it's super helpful. It's a really great way to go about getting your sculpted details, like your high resolution details, inside of any other 3D application. It goes so slow. Your graphics processor is dying. I'm going to have to update that. Let's take a screenshot just to... Good grief. Okay. There we go. Okay, it should be open here in just a minute. And if not, yeah, so alpha channel, read it as transparency, that's fine. It shouldn't have an alpha channel, it should just be black and white. But because it's an EXR, it holds any kind of transparency details in it. And so that's why, man, I hate how slow this is. So that's why it asks if it has alpha detail or transparency detail, do you want us to think about it and do you want us to remember it? All right. Is it done? Okay. So you can see, if we raise this up, there is our displacement detail. Okay. So you know, you can tell, I mean, it's not very easy to see. I think I probably, did I change it to the 0 to be able to create it? Displacement map, I did. So let's go ahead and change it to 0.5. And we'll say create all maps. Come back up here to Clumsy Witch just so we can see the difference here. Turnip 2. We'll let that export and see what it does. Sorry for slowing the stream, no big deal. Do it anyway. Okay, so now let's go ahead and bring in Displacement 2. Okay, so you can see we're getting a similar sort of thing. It's red because it's kind of dealing with the red channel. Okay, but let's go back and get back to the RGB. If we do the same thing You know, you can see there's our color information. So we're just going to kind of clamp it in. And you see if we go ahead and we go to our red, we're getting the same thing. So yeah, pretty much the same thing, right? So yeah, one of the things I need to go through and kind of experiment and see kind of what it is that I need to do to be able to get my levels to be correct. Right now it feels like they're just way too low to be able to work properly. I haven't seen it turn out that dark before. But yeah, it should be fine. It should be right. Yeah, adaptive. This is something that I've noticed that it doesn't seem to actually make a difference. It's supposed to create a more accurate map, and it takes longer. I haven't seen it actually make a difference, so I never use it. At least not anymore. So yeah, that's just a little bit of a heads up on that. But yeah, that's kind of how you export that. I won't be digging into actually showing how to apply it, but that's let's turn off Photoshop so that it's not slowing us down. But yeah, that's how that works. Let's go ahead. Let's try to finish this turnip stuff. This turnip business. Okay, I'm going to say, let's pull this off. I'm going to shrink it down. And we're just going to kind of pull it out. Now, I want to try to kind of make some sense of what's happening, making it feel a little bit more joined in. You see that already adds so much more interest and so much more detail. Yeah, Leonard, we're here for you. Try to answer some questions, things that, make sense to answer. That's something I needed to do anyway, so it was, it's fine for me. Gets me an opportunity to just kind of show something cool. Let's kind of create a ridge along that leaf here. And we'll just kind of smooth it out. That's a little bit too much. Smooth it out just a little bit here. Here we go. Yeah, we'll keep it down. Cool. All right, let's go ahead and say Control W just to make sure it's its own poly group. And then we will add in another couple of these. I'm going to use my transpose line I love transpose line. I'm just going to kind of bend that out a little bit. All right. And then let's kind of bring it over to the other side or something like that. I keep getting that the light from the window right in my eye. Just kind of push and pull this around a little bit. We'll just try to get this overlapped in a nice way that feels organic and natural and intentional. In fact, I need to check and make sure that I'm not being. I might be adding in too many. So here's what I'll do. Let's go ahead. Let's get rid of this one. Where am I at? Masking, geometry, modify topology, delete hidden. Let's go ahead and thank you, Quentin. Appreciate you, man. Looking out for me. Whew. Just trying to get some good variation here. Getting that light in my eyes, like dang it. Here, let's come over here and we'll just kind of branch this off over here. Maybe we'll move it to maybe not so much though. Let's something kind of like maybe not. Yeah, let's come down here, auto groups. It's oops, not Y. R. W, and then we'll just kind of move this out, kind of like this. I'm gonna take this little corner down here and just kind of tuck it in, cozy it on in. This particular end, I want to have it maybe a little bit longer. I don't know. Try it out, test it. It looks pretty good. We'll keep it. We'll keep it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save it again just because, you know, good luck. All right. Now, I want to go through. I have this, but it's feeling a little bit too. Not rotate. I want scale. It's feeling a little bit too thick. Just kind of pull these away from the stock some. Make it feel a little bit more organic. That feels a little bit better. I do kind of want to, I don't know, I like that thick base feeling though, so it might be a matter of trying to strike a balance there. It might be a matter of just taking in this let's take this, just kind of make it match up with the greenery a little bit better. Yeah, I'm not Ara. Yeah, let's actually leave this up. Let's see, what was I looking for now? Oh shoot, I was about to look something up and I totally spaced. Shoot. Let's turn on the witch, I guess. Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to keep the light out of my eyes. I used to be able to change my stream titles while I was streaming, and it looks like I can't do that anymore. So I got to figure out a new way to be able to manage those, but that'll happen at some other point. I'm going to say, oh shoot, Control F. I'm going to say turnip. Let's grab that turnip top. I'm going to say turnip stem 01. We're going to call this turnip head 01. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually kind of spoof the greens coming out the top. And I'm going to take these turnips. I'm going to say Control-Shift-D just to be able to kind of duplicate that entire folder. We'll say transpose set. And I'm going to kind of pivot it from right here where that where it touches that hand. I'm just going to kind of rotate it, and maybe I'll raise it up too. Let's kind of pull it forward. Transpose this one. Just going to kind of pull it back. Again, try to pivot it from where that where it's touching that hand. We'll just kind of pull this up and in. just kind of tuck it into her hand some. Let's grab this one. We'll just kind of make it feel like it's resting on top of her hand instead of disappearing into it. Bears beats Battlestar Galactica. I'm just gonna take these and kind of manipulate them just a little bit, just for the sake of getting a little bit of variation. And what I can do, let's turn off. Is I can kind of vary up the shape and the size as well. Let's kind of down res it some. Let's kind of bend it off in a different direction a little bit, just so that it's its own thing. And then I need one more beat or one more turnip. Let's go through, let's say, oh, not transpose set, shoot. I want duplicate. Why is that doing that? Let me see. Transpose set. There we go. It's like for some reason it doesn't want to leave the other duplicate there behind. It's like, come on. I'm going to turn off this ground plane just so that I don't have to worry about seeing it. So I can, see what I'm doing when I'm down below. Go ahead and grab this. In fact, I'm going to use the snake hook brush. Let's just kind of pull down on it some. Maybe not. Let's just make sure that this is kind of standing off on the top. I'm going to shrink this one down some so that I have a variation in sizes. It just helps to vary things up in that sort of way. So you get like a small, medium, large sort of effect. So design-wise, it should be much stronger. Okay, and it should be much harder to tell also that I have three of the same beats. I do need to go in here and I will take this and just kind of angle it differently or something. Just to be able to say that we have made changes. Let's kind of extend it out a little bit, just making it a little bit different. Okay, so now that feels beautiful. In fact, let's try something like this. Kind of pull this off over to the side here. Take this one, and we want this to feel like it's coming out from between her pinky finger and ring finger, so we can see that it looks like she's kind of holding on to that. Very cool. All right. So now we have these things. It does feel like gravity, like the center of gravity isn't quite there. I need to make sure that they are kind of hanging down more, so that the center of gravity is kind of coming between here more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say transpose set. I'll say transpose add, transpose add. Oop, not that. Shoot. Transpose sub. There we go. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take all those, and we're just going to rotate it so that it feels about like it's more, you know, hanging in that center of gravity sort of way. Same thing in this direction. You know, I need to make sure that it feels like it's hanging. Okay. Really, really useful. It's a tricky thing to kind of balance out sometimes too. In fact, it might need to go back a little bit more the other direction. It should be all right. All right, let's see. Let's see if it'll let me continue on here. All right. I remember what I was going to check now. I was going to check and see what the schedule was for ZBrush Live, to make sure that I don't go. Well, I mean, I don't want to go for too much longer anyway, but cool. Let's see if we can add some greenery on top of there. And I guess I'll double check and make sure that this feels good with the fingers too. But yeah, so far so good. Not too bad. I really like the simple, it's just a simple thing, but it adds so much to it. And I like that even though it's a fairly detailed prop, it doesn't feel like it detracts from the character. One of the things that I do want to make sure of, though, is that looking at this, I mean, because it's such a bright color, I feel like it's kind of competing with my like competing for my attention. So, because I mean, we're going to have the greens, and that's going to be kind of bright and colorful. I want to try to think about ways to kind of tie things in a little bit better, and I feel like that pink, because the pink is something that's kind of unique and different. I feel like that might be a little bit too different. It just makes it feel like it stands out. So I'm going to test something. Let's turn off the texture map. Let's go into poly paint. We'll say adjust colors. We'll say frame so we can see it. Oh, frame. Good golly. Okay, there we go. Let's blur that mask as much as it'll let me. What I want to do is I want to try, let's kind of hide the mask so we can see what we're doing a little bit better. I'm going to take that saturation, kind of pull it down. There we go. Yeah. Adjust colors, same thing. Come in here. Oh, here. Something I gotta do first. Gotta boost this up to its highest subdivision level. I've got to texture paint, texture map. Turn off the texture map. Oh, in fact, over here, what we need to do also is we need to say, make sure that's at its highest level, say new from poly paint. And technically, I don't need to go through and do more. Oh, thanks, Leonard. You see that? I remembered what it was that I was going to do, and then I totally forgot again. I'm definitely on top of it today. One of those days, I guess. Let's go ahead and grab this. We'll just keep that kind of where that is. We'll blur it. Same thing. We can try doing that. Bring down the saturation. And I'm curious also, like, what if we were to just kind of boost that hue just a little bit? Kind of, it looks like we need to kind of paint it out a little bit just to make the colors feel right. But I like that it has much more of that earthy tone sort of color to it. Yeah, I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Say new from poly paint. Okay, so one of the things that we can do is that now that we have that created, okay, I can come over here. I can say clone texture, and you see that created this this image over here. And I'm going to say, it looks like we already have it selected, so we're going to say export, and I am going to call this. Going to call this 3. You can see that it went through and it has the underscore D1001. That 1001 is referring to that that ending for that UDIM list. 1001 means that it's the first UDIM. It's that first UV square. Okay, that first 0 to 1 square. I don't need that, so I'll just delete it. It's not a huge deal. And you can see this is what it's given us. Okay, I love those colors. That's getting us some good range of like some pinks in here, but also like these purple magentas and very subdued, very earthy, very creamy down here. I think that's going to work really nicely. So now I can use that for my image instead. If I wanted to modify this before exporting it, I could come up here to texture, and I can, having it selected, I can just say flip vertical, and you see now it's flipped the same direction. And then I can go ahead and I could say export, and I could do the same process. So just select it to replace it, and you can see here's my image. Now it's facing the same direction, facing the right direction. So however I decide to do that, totally fine. But yeah, textures inside of ZBrush, super powerful, super useful. I think that's going to work so much better. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to apply the same texture to all the turnips. So I'm going to grab this and let's select that. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Oh yeah, because it's flipped upside down. So let's go ahead and texture, flip. There we go. Same thing, select that latest one there, and there we go. So now they're all the same. Okay, and that's kind of the process that I would go through for other assets too, like these stocks. In fact, just to be able to get a little bit more variation, I'm going to grab this particular stock. Since it's a smaller turnip, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of orient this so that this is, you know, more in line with the stock itself, and then hold Alt and then just shrink it down. Something kind of like that. And that gives me a little bit of like a variation too as to having it opened or closed. And oops. So it's kind of neat. All right. So far so good. Let's see if we can go ahead and create that leaf real quick then. These leaves, we're going to create one and then we're going to duplicate it around. We'll probably have maybe 4 or 5 total. The way that I'm going to do this, let's go ahead and turn that ground plane back on. Ground, Control Shift D. I'm going to turn off the thickness. Okay. And then what I want to do, I'm just going to raise it up here. Apply. Control D, Control D, Control D. Delete lower. Something like this should be just fine. Okay, so I'm not going to worry too much about symmetry. I'm going to turn it on, but I'm not going to worry too much about it. And then I'm going to use my masking pen, and I'm just going to draw out kind of a turnip greens leaf shape. I'm trying to keep it a little bit organic. Then I gotta kind of check my reference too, just to make sure that I'm all right. I'm trying to simplify it, and I want to make sure that it reads right, but it's not something that I feel like is an absolute deal breaker if I get it, you know, a little bit off. Oops, didn't want to do that. That's an illustration of one, and it looks really nice. Let's kind of look at that. Okay. So let's, instead of doing something like this, let's go ahead and kind of cut that off. Okay, turn off symmetry, and then we'll just kind of add in some variation over here. I feel like that's too odd. it's too unintentional. So let's do this. Let's kind of make some bigger shapes. Something like this. Something like this. Something like this. And this. Something like that. That feels better. It feels cleaner. It feels more. It feels more better. Let's say polygroups. Let's go to say group mask, and I'm going to turn this polished all the way up. And you see now we've got this nice leaf shape. Okay. So what I want to do is I'm going to say, let's make sure it's not masked. I'm going to say geometry, modify topology, delete hidden. And then let's say I'm going to use the slice curve. And I just want to make sure that that's slicing kind of down that center. Something like that. So that it makes it feel like it's two halves. Even though it's not symmetrical, I still want it to feel like it's two halves. What I want to do, let's say ZRemesher. I'm going to turn off adapt. Right now it's at 15,000 points. I want it to be down at like maybe 1,000. Target polygon count. Let's just try it at the 0.1. That'll take it down to hopefully around 100 points. It should be enough. It doesn't look good. Let's go ahead. Let's turn on keep groups. Better, but not great. Let's put it up to 0.5. And really it kind of just comes down to testing and seeing what you can get. I'm going to hold Alt and hit ZRemesher, see if I get anything better. Not really, that's kind of the same thing there. Let's go ahead. I'm going to say edge loop. Let's say group loops. Sure, we'll leave it at 4. And let's see if this gets me anything better. Close that down. ZRemesher. Let's hit ZRemesher again. So since I had it on 4, I'm going to go ahead and say Control-Shift-X twice. And then I'm going to say Control-W. And then Control-Shift-Click. And then Control-Shift-X, 1, 2. Control-W. Okay, so that way I've got these two polygroups that are just kind of, lining up. Matching each other. Hopefully looking good. I'm just going to get rid of anything because you can see like I've got an invisible bunch of stuff there. So I'm going to make sure that I get rid of those things, delete hidden. Just extra polygons going around the outside that aren't going to be as helpful. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to say ZRemesher. Target polygon count. I'm going to take that up to 1,000. Just 1. 1 means thousands. Okay. Let's go ahead and hit ZRemesher again. Okay. That looks like that should work. I mean, I have to clean it up a little bit, but this isn't a big deal. Just kind of take this up, make it make sense. Okay, the topology isn't a huge deal to me, like I was talking about earlier, for this particular project, because I'm not looking to make this a super tight production model. I'm looking to make this more just I'm looking to make this more of like just a sculpt, just a concept sculpt, a design sculpt. Okay, so now what I want to do here, I want to take different brushes. I want to use things like the cloth pull, turn off dynamic. And you see, like, just instantly we're already looking much more organic. It's already looking much more like a leaf, you know. It's really, really cool. Since this is pretty close to what we want, we're going to go ahead and shrink it down. Let's make sure that we have that correct color. MRGB, we'll say color, fill object, turn off MRGB. Okay. And then, voila. Starting to get this these turnip greens in there. It's much too large, but that's fine. We'll just shrink it down and call it cool. One of the things that I want to do, let's go ahead and turn on dynamic, and I want to add thickness to it. That's much too thick. That might be about what I want. Maybe a little bit thinner. Something like that might work. Alright. So now what I want to do is let's use that cloth pull. Just kind of pull this around. And you can see that, like, by using the cloth pull, I'm getting some really interesting wrinkles in there. That's totally cool. That's totally fine. It might be a little bit too much. It'll be just kind of depending on what it is that you want to achieve with it. But yeah, right now I'm just kind of exploring. I'm trying to really pull out the shape in an interesting way. Control Shift D to be able to make another one. Okay, so using that cloth pull, let's just kind of take and push and pull this into all sorts of different directions here. Okay. And you can see, like, as I add these types of details, it just really helps to bring the character to life. And just trying to wrinkle it up a little bit so that it doesn't feel so perfect and so smooth. I feel like that's helping to add a lot more of an organic sort of feel to it. And I'm trying to do it in in the direction that the leaf is going, so that it feels a little bit more intentional, a little bit more oops, I don't want that. I want something like that. Just gonna pull that out so that it's not going through. And then I'm going to grab this top leaf, Control Shift D again. I'm relying a lot on duplicates because I find that it would be, yeah, let's just leave it like that, I guess. I find that if I were to keep them all within the same subtool, it would be a tremendous pain in the butt to keep clean, to keep, you know, easy to work with. I'm just going to kind of smooth that out a little bit. And then we'll grab that cloth pull and make it its own set of wrinkles. That is looking so super cool. So yeah, I'm just using like combinations of different uses of these of the transpose line to get this to really just work, to be able to create this sense of the leaves kind of turning and you know, reacting with gravity, reacting with each other, reacting with the character. Let's kind of grab this and pull it in. Let's grab this and pull it in. I definitely want some more leaves. Like, I love this one, and I think this will work really nicely if I kind of pull this over here. And then using my transpose line, if I hold Alt, Mikkel, how are you doing, brother? Nice to see your name in the chat, man. If I hold Alt with the transpose line, that lets me bend. And that's with the move transpose line. So it's super, super helpful. Let me see. And then we've got this. I'll bring it something like that. With the move transpose line, I can go ahead and hold Alt and just kind of pull this down so that it breaks that silhouette a little bit better, gets a little bit of a window in here. Super neat. So yeah, just kind of creating a little bit of overlap, and helps to create a very organic sort of shape in here when I'm looking at it. This particular, let's go ahead and let's actually break with tradition here. something like that. Let's grab, if I can get it, grab this little leaf right here and just kind of pull it over so that we can make it feel like it's filling that space a little bit better. I'm not trying to make it feel like it's perfect and like it's all just working out perfectly, but I do want it to feel like it's making sense at least a little bit. Let's go ahead and grab a duplicate of that leaf. And, you know, let's go ahead and shrink it down some. How you doing, miss? Oops, let's go ahead and drag that out. All right, something kind of like that. Let's get this to line up a little bit with the stem. Let's go ahead and just trying to position this. I feel like that might be a little bit too much. How do you copy an object? You have a few different ways to be able to copy an object. Right now, this is working with its own subtool, so I can hit Control-Shift-D, and then I can move that around, and it's a copy of that same object. Or let's delete this one because I don't need it. Or if I'm still within that same subtool and I want to use that same subtool but have a copy of that object in that same subtool, I can just hold Control and click and drag. The same thing with the gizmo, Control, click and drag. It really kind of just depends on what it is that you're trying to accomplish with it. And I feel like that just breaks too much. That breaks too much. I'm going to delete. Actually, let's not delete it. Let's take it up. Put something like that together. Now, I don't know if turnip leaves are exactly the same as beets, but I do know that with beet leaves, you'll often get these little like thin, teeny little leaves, and then you'll get big, thick leaves, and so it kind of ranges and depends on what it is that you've got, but there you go. You know what? I'm gonna duplicate this little teeny leaf again. And we'll just kind of tuck it right in over here somewhere. Smooth it out some or something like that. Let's see, let's take this and just kind of rotate it just a little bit. And then down in here, oops, rotate. Do something kind of like that. Move it in place here. Ooh. Alright. Looks pretty dandy. Sorry, I'm like super trapped in my own mind right now. Which I guess isn't a terrible thing, but yeah, there we go. I want to call that good. So yeah, now later on, sometime today, hopefully, maybe, I should be able to get in and let's see. I should be able to get in and start to bring these things over into Maya for rendering. But yeah, for right now. For right now, that's not bad. Not bad at all. Yes. All right. So yeah, you have a few different ways that you could do leaves like this, where it's like kind of drooping over. I went about the route of using the cloth brushes, but you could also go about using actual dynamics. You could go about sculpting it, so you go through and you make a leaf, you kind of pose it, and then you just kind of like sculpt over it a little bit. But yeah, this worked out really nicely and got me the look that I wanted, so that's nice. I'm going to go ahead and I am going to merge these down. Just so that I have turnip greens. Okay, good. And then I'm going to take this up to the top. Yeah, I forgot. Okay. I'd forgotten that I had gone through and had different things in the different folders. So I'm going to take these different things here. I'm going to combine all the stems into one file and into one subtool. I'm going to leave the beats as separate. See, now we've got the. In fact, it might even be worth it leaving the. No, I'll take the stems and I'll merge them down just so that they are. Okay. Turnip stem. Okay, so now we got the turnip stem, we've got the turnip head 1, 2, and 3. We have turnip greens, which the turnip greens right now, if we look at them, they all have the dynamic subdivisions turned on with the dynamic thickness. So what I want to do is I want to take it and say geometry, apply. Oh, in fact, maybe not even apply yet. Let's apply it with just the thickness and not the smooth. So now I can go ahead and take away the thickness and add, you know, some smoothing or whatever for my smooth preview. And you can see that's getting rid of like the sharp edges to the corners and things like that. So that'll just give me a good indication to what it is that I can expect to see when I render it out inside of my guy. So yeah, I'm gonna resave that because changes. And let's turn on perspective just so we can, you know, once it finishes saving. There we go. And there she is. Now the turnips are definitely blocking the cool you know, turn in her hat there. It's not a huge deal though. I wanted them kind of out like that so that it could clearly, or more clearly, show her pose. It's not a huge deal though. So yeah, we'll call those turnips good, and we'll call it good for the stream too. We've been on for a while. I don't remember if I did anything since I hit save last, but we'll call it just because of paranoia. So yeah, that's what we'll call it for today. Dang, had a good time, had fun streaming and creating these turnips with you guys. Better than a Saturday morning cartoon. Oh shucks, man, I don't know about that. I love Saturday morning cartoons. I grew up with Tom and Jerry, so you know it's fun stuff. and Speed Racer too. But yeah, good stuff. I have fun with it. It's so much fun, and it's fun to go through and see it progress. So the next thing we got, I mean, just to be able to show you a comparison. I mean, we started with this, we turned her into this. She is slowly becoming this, you know. So we're having fun with it. We should hopefully be able to finish this someday soon. Someday soon. So yeah, this is my render test inside of Arnold. This is the sculpt as it stands inside of ZBrush. This is the original concept. So we're having fun. Hopefully you guys have had fun as well. Hopefully you guys are you know, finding ways to be able to enjoy yourself some and be able to push creativity. There we go. It's a little bit nicer. And yeah, I'm going to go enjoy a weekend. Hope you guys enjoy your weekend as well. If you're working, if you're out, stay safe. Otherwise, I'll see you next time I see you. Still trying to figure out schedule for streaming for next month, so I don't have any word on that yet. But regardless, I'll try to stream some on my personal channel. If you want to be able to find me, you can find all my links at smartest.com, or you can check me out at twitch.tv/smartest, or at youtube.com/smartest. Yeah. And then also I've got Instagram. And that's usually my favorite. I've got like all my links linked in on my Instagram. So, you know, if you want to be able to find me anywhere, that's a great place to be able to find me. And yeah, we'll see when the next time I stream on here will be at some point. But yeah, stay safe. My awesome tutorial. It's a fun one. If you're interested in learning more from me, I mean, I've got on ArtStation, I have my character modeling for animation course. I also have the same course over on Flip Normals in case you're I can't remember if this is how it works or not. Here we go. Just type this in then. So yeah, either way, whichever area you're interested in, you know, if you're interested in checking out Flip Normals, great. If you're interested in checking out ArtStation, great. So I'll go ahead and I'll send you that. But yeah, so feel free to check all that out or not. Choice is yours. And I hope you guys had an awesome time. I sure enjoy having you guys around. Thanks for coming and hanging out. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next time I see you. Yeah. Smartest out.